Truck 1, ambulance 1, medic 1, showing all units en route to
Dispatch ambulance 7, St. Mary's code 3 was on.
Today, Going Interior, a podcast about doing hard jobs and living life well. This podcast is designed as a collaborative tool so we can learn from one another and share ideas on finding joy and meaning in our work. I'm your host, Jamie Cavanaugh. Today we're here with Bryson Rasmussen. He's a captain paramedic at the Grand Junction Fire Department. He's been with the fire department for 7 years, doing a great job with his crew. He's also vice president of the union, father, husband, crushing it all around, keeping it super positive. So we're very excited to have Bryson here with us today. You enjoy your job, I can tell. And you bring a lot of awesome energy to work. You show up for your crew in a big way. And that's what we want to dive into today. What's your background and how did you get to this point in your career? What set you on this path?
Yeah, so initially I grew up thinking I'd make a bunch of money doing something in the medical field. I've always kind of had a desire to be in the medical field. Right after high school, I talked to an anesthesiologist who enjoyed his job, but also had some, not regrets, but maybe hesitance to fully recommend what he was doing. And said, you know, the first responders are going to get your EMT or your paramedic is a cheap way to get your feet wet and make sure you're committed before you dump a bunch of time and money into school to do this. But right after high school, I ended up serving a 2-year service mission for my church, which I had always grown up planning to do. But while I was out there, I discovered a real love for serving people. One that I kind of already had, but that was like my full-time job, was just like help people and find people who are looking for help. And so when I got back, the fire service was really a perfect fit. It was something in the medical field. I felt like I fulfilled my purpose of helping people for a living. And I also grew up playing team sports. The team family aspect of the fire service was also super desirable and a great fit for me. Here I am.
So it seems like that anesthesiologist was hinting at something that's this huge job that maybe is all-encompassing, right? That
yes.
You found maybe a bit more balance than you would have had you gone that path. Do you feel that way?
I think so, yeah. And I feel like a lot of those jobs, you're kind of committed after you start down that path, and there's not a whole lot of room to bail out without making a huge financial and time sacrifice. Honestly, I feel like it was just God's way. Sometimes we get in our own way, and He's got to open multiple doors for us to find where we're supposed to be, and that was one way for Him to lead me down this path, is to put that desire in my heart or whatever for medicine or
Well, it's cool for you to be able to synergize, you know, your passion, your mission, all that stuff, and get paid for it. I mean, pretty fortunate. Tell me about that a little more. What are you doing on your off time right now? What are you doing that fills your cup, or that
my off time is a little skewed to how it traditionally has been. Spending time with family. This time of year, I really enjoy watching college football. I grew up in Utah where there's no NFL team. So although I support and enjoy watching the Broncos, college football is where my passion lies. Go Utes. And also this time of year, typically I enjoy hunting. Haven't had time for it this year. But I also recently got into a little bit of dirt biking. So some throttle therapy when I get the chance is very welcomed. I enjoy being outside in general, camping, mountain biking, hiking, all that stuff.
And it seems like you bring some of that joy to work with you. Are you doing some of that stuff with your crew on off shifts, or do you just feel like that energy follows you to work more?
A little of both. So mostly crew time outside of work right now consists of going to grab a drink and a bite to eat. Frequently we plan bike rides or a motorcycle ride, stuff like that. But mostly, it's filling the cup a little bit to make sure your cup's full when you come to work. But also trying to fill the cup at work with that group that you're with for a 30-year life, and doing stuff to get playing spike ball, playing basketball, even just suffering together a little bit during a workout definitely also fills that cup. And that is something I purposefully bring to shift with intent.
Seems like you've got an awesome crew to work with as well.
I do have an awesome crew.
Definitely.
Yeah, shout out to Green Crew Station 3.
Yeah, that definitely helps things. Walk me through your typical day. How do you prepare yourself to do what you do, and then how do you kind of execute? Is there anything mentally, physically, spiritually, little rituals you have, anything like that, or what's your day composed of?
I'll start with work routine. So typically, I got to set like 3 alarms. I like to sleep in very cold. Like this time of year is perfect. I just have the window open while I sleep. But the downside is it makes it hard to get out of bed because it's cold by the time the morning comes. So I set like 3 alarms. My room neighbor probably wants to kill me because I let all 3 alarms go off.
Are they super early?
Yeah. So I set an alarm for 5:45, 5:55, and then one for 6:05. Normally that one won't go off, but that's like if I haven't made it out yet, that's my final alarm. But I like to get up around 6.
Okay.
Right now at work, I use the opportunity to cook breakfast for my crew. That's kind of my meal that I cook, and they get to wake up to the smell of bacon cooking or whatever else. But it's also just some time in the morning where sometimes other people are awake, sometimes not, but I can pour a cup of coffee, turn on a podcast, turn on some music, sip coffee on the patio, etc., and prepare for the day. Then we usually have breakfast as a crew, and or if it's day one, we have our morning meeting and everything else. But we have some good quality crew time either way in the morning, where we talk about 4-day, check in with everybody, make a plan for the day, and usually set some training goals for what we want to accomplish. And we kind of have set it up with my background with love for football. We set it up where we know there's 3 categories of training. It's either film room time where we're watching YouTube videos, or some of the recent combat ready stuff where it's kind of tabletop. And then practice where it's crawl, walk, run. There's no stopwatch out. We're slowing everything down, and then game speed. And we try and define which realm we're in, so that the game speed reps aren't wasted on answering questions or fiddling around with this or that. And there is a safe space for failing and experimenting and asking questions and all that stuff in between.
Man, I was just going to draw out 2 of those points because I think they're awesome. Like you connecting with your crew first thing, I think is really cool. Like everybody's busy now, especially as a captain. You're, vice president of the union. You got all these things. You're doing podcasts. Like you have a side business as well, right? I mean, you're a busy guy. So to show up, I think we have this tendency to just go right into our own zone, at work. Like, I got all this stuff going on. Like, kind of get out of my way. And I think it's really cool that you bring everybody together. Like, hey, these are our crew goals. Let's connect. Let's have that time of connection. Like, let's bring it together. This is what it's about. Where are we going together? And I think that's super awesome. The second one I was going to say, you setting those clear expectations or definitions from your crew. We have so many new people. I think that's super rad to just say, like, this is what we're working on. This is where you're at. This is what I'm evaluating you guys on. Because I think half the insecurity of people is just not knowing what we as the supervisors are looking for. And if we can get really clear on that and just say, this is what I'm looking for. This is where, the bar is. 99% of the time, they're going to jump over it, right? So thanks. Those are cool.
I typically try and go to the store first. 1, people are hungry, and 2, it's just kind of a pain and a waste of time to get interrupted while grocery shopping. I feel like we have a better chance of not if we go early in the day. And lately, the ambulance has almost always had an early morning call, and we like to PT together as a crew. So while the ambulance is knocking out that first call of the day, we go shopping. That's just kind of how it's worked out. But then we try and leave some time before lunch to work out. lately for workouts, I follow the Fit to Fight Fire programming. It's like a $5 a month community deal where there's a workout and a message of the day or whatever.
Very cool.
But a part of that's nice for on shift is there's usually a section at the bottom of the workout that says if you only have 10 minutes, do this.
Okay.
So I kind of have a rule. If it's after lunch, we're just going to do this 10-minute whatever because we got other stuff to do. I know you guys are going to be running calls. We don't need to try and fit an hour workout in. But if we can in the morning, we fit a bigger workout in. And then lunchtime is kind of free game. I try not to bother people during lunchtime. Once in a while, we'll have one of the newer personnel share a class or go over a policy or a protocol, etc., while people eat. But in general, like to leave people alone during lunchtime. And then in the afternoon, we're training or running calls till 5 p.m. So sprinkle in the specialties of the day, whether it's a Saturday or a Monday. My general rule is work before play, so we'll try and knock those things out first and maybe have an afternoon workout. So yeah, that's typically, and then in the evening, that's crew time. Sometimes we'll have dedicated movie night. Everyone participates. We'll play spike ball. We'll do basketball. Sometimes we just set chairs up in the bay and have some old school round robin. At Station 3, we're privileged to have some Adirondack, I think is how you say it, chairs. So we'll grab those off the patio, or we'll sit on the patio, especially if it's like raining or something. It's kind of cool to sit out in the rain under the patio. But it's kind of just dedicated chill time to talk about anything but work. So we'll talk about the blind dates the single guys have coming up on 4-day or the hunting trip the other guys got coming up. And often it actually turns into conversation about work too, but it's something somebody saw on Instagram or somebody has a question about a circumstance that came up on a call, and it opens up some rabbit holes into other discussions. But it's just dedicated time for us to relax and hang out as a crew.
Man, being intentional about connecting like that is pretty cool that you guys are making that time for it. Because I'm sure you know, if we aren't intentional about that, everybody's watching TV and on their phone at the same exact time. You know, and that connection is just lost.
You got a group in the office on their phones, and you got a group in the recliners on their phones, but no one's really connected.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, some of your crew, I mean, the lion's share of most of our crews now is really new
young
to our department, you know, or quite young. And I'm sure it can feel intimidating to have that discussion in front of, you know, this captain who's been here longer than I know of, you know, and you'll have an engineer that's super duper seasoned. So just making it safe for them to share and connect in that way is pretty cool.
And there is a fine line between having all these expectations and plans and micromanaging that I try to make sure I'm on one side of the line all the time. But we have enough unknowns in our job that as a firefighter, I really enjoyed having certain things well known as expectations. I do have written expectations that are printed, laminated. They're in the pantry at Station 3 if anyone wants to look. But when you come work for me, it should be very clear, like what I expect from you, how the day's going to go. So,
well, give me an example. What's on that list?
Kind of on that list is like mission, vision, values of the crew, some hard and fast generalities, the work before play principle, plan for the worst, hope for the best, kind of some PPE expectations, a minimum, so people aren't guessing or having to yell while we're waiting for an update or whatever, like, do you want me dressed? Do you not want me dressed? Do you want me in a vest? Do you want me, like all that stuff's laid out beforehand so you can just get dressed and listen to the radio. And there's a little bit of call specifics on there as far as deployment, just so that we're efficient on scenes and we look like we're professionals that know what we're doing. And so you know where you fit in this cog that is our crew when you're floating in and out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. You said mission, vision, and values that they came up with together? Is this yours? Is it?
I kind of came up with it before they were laminated. Solicited the crew's feedback, but really I developed these expectations when I was upgrading as kind of I know I'm stepdad today, but here's some things that I kind of influence so that you know what I'm about.
Okay.
But I'm also not here to stir the pot too much, so let me know what you guys are about.
Okay.
Otherwise, you just are kind of a chameleon that blends into whatever's going on there.
Sure.
And that's a hard place to be.
Absolutely.
As an upgrade. So there was a couple hard and fast that came for me. This is what you get today because I'm here. Other things that aren't as important where, we'll do whatever you guys are doing. I don't want to upset your norm.
Sure.
So, but it's kind of taking care of each other so we can better take care of them is kind of the mission statement. There's a couple core values, integrity, honesty, trust is on there, positivity. I have a strong belief that perception is reality, but also like the shift is what you make it, no matter how busy you are, what calls you get. Like a lot of it is your attitude or response to what comes your way. And that's a big deal to me. So.
Well, I think we can cultivate what we want to see a little bit too, right? And that's kind of the basis of this podcast, is to share ideas about this. How do we build each other up? How do we take care of each other so we can do the job better, serve the community better, whatever our capacity of work. So I really appreciate that stuff. You even highlighted some of like, how do we take care of each other? And sometimes it's just little stuff. I know the ambulance crew is busy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to the store while they're busy. Save the fun stuff that everybody wants to do for when they get back, And I think that's cool that you highlight that and make that like, this is a priority in the day. You guys taking care of each other. Not that you're not going to have disagreements, but that you work things out. And I think to some degree, when right on calls or with our coworkers, if we're putting out that positivity that you talked about, that's generally what we're getting back. That's certainly tested with some super challenging patients. We've all had them where we have to sedate and restrain, but that number is pretty low when you're putting that out that I'm here to take care of you. I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to have this day flow positively. Or we can go in super pissed, and we're going to be restraining a lot of folks, and we're going to be, if not restraining, at least having a hard time with our patients and our job, frankly.
Yeah, and a lot of those calls, if we are taking care of each other, there's still a positive atmosphere on our side, and those harder calls become comical instead of something really frustrating, where you're frustrated at the call, you're frustrated at your crew, you're frustrated, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas if you feel supported, taken care of, it still ends up being a positive experience.
You said you wanted to get into some of the specifics. Are there any that come to mind when you're talking about this?
Yeah, well, so a few examples. I think it's important to, or I take it seriously in my job, is intently paying attention to those people, and part of it is just letting people off the hook sometimes. I think especially with expectations that we're going to work out together, expectations that we're going to train, all that stuff, people want to meet those expectations, even if they're slammed or at the end of their rope. And being able to recognize that and intentionally let people off the hook, like, hey, I know you want to work out, I know you want but I understand you're 5 reports behind, like, it's not a big deal. Go write your reports, like, you're off the hook.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's almost absolving them of some guilt that they would feel otherwise.
Exactly.
Right? They need to be two places.
People are torn, like, gosh dang it, I got to get those reports done.
Yeah.
And also, but it's not so they can, it's not for selfish reasons 99% of the time.
Right.
But they also want to train, want to work out, feel, especially if you're on the ambulance a lot, there's circumstances where either you have a student or you're getting on protocol, or you, to where those add up time after time, and you start to feel a little bit of stress or concern with your ability to perform in some of the other stuff you can't do. So also creating a safe space for that stuff too, like, hey, we're going to train on this, you can go write your reports, you and I can go over it after, and you don't have to do it in front of, like, creating just safe spaces where people are able to not have to worry about pleasing me and dealing with all the stuff they got going on. It's just they can deal with their stuff and know that I'm going to take care of them.
Yeah, so. Man, I really appreciate that what you said is, or what I'm understanding is that you're assuming that they have really good intentions. Like, that's your general mindset. That's the place you're starting from, and working with them and meeting them there. Like, how can we make this good for you versus somebody else might go into it with, see the same thing and think they're coming into it with a mindset of, this person slacked on something before, I'm going to assume they're trying to get out of this, that sort of thing. Just these assumptions that are not healthy and not cultivating the crew that we want to see, and the cohesion, the positivity, all that stuff you talked about. So I think that's really cool.
And I appreciated that from other people, or do appreciate that from other people, that they assume the best, and sometimes it's not true. And usually when it's not true and you know that they assumed the best, it makes you better.
Yeah.
You're like, gosh, I was just being lazy, but they think, you know what I mean? You feel guilty, and your own internal whatever helps you be better.
Yeah.
My judgment of you isn't going to do anything but hinder that.
Right. Yeah. So
and we're surrounded by great people. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
9 times out of 10, assuming the best is accurate anyway. In my 6 or 7 years here, I've had really positive experiences and really negative experiences, just like anybody. And you try and run with the positive ones and wait for your time where you can influence the negative ones too. So yeah, I think there's pros and cons, or stuff you like and want to adopt, and stuff you don't like and won't adopt. With just about everybody or every crew, there's little snippets you like and snippets you don't. And I'm sure my crew would say the same thing. There's probably stuff they like about working for me, and stuff they're like, when I'm in charge one day, we ain't doing that. Which is fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
and that's what this conversation is about. I've been here for 10 years and still feel like I have a ton to learn, and opening up these conversations, it's so cool for me to learn what other folks are doing, and hopefully people will see that, and say, I really liked what he said there, and I could take or leave that. It's not landing for me right now, in my situation, and that's fine.
My home life right now is also unique. But typically at home, currently, our schedule really evolves around our son, Charlie. He's 1, and he's on a respiratory ventilator and has a trach. With that, he has to have 24-hour supervision. There's a lot of interventions that need to happen right away, and we can't wake up and go take care of them. So once in a while we have help at night. We have a fair amount of help, which is awesome. Other nights we don't, so we split the night. Recently, we used to rotate. Recently, we've kind of defined roles, and I'm the morning guy. So if we don't have help, I get up at 3 a.m. and I'm in charge till about 9 a.m. Unless it's days I'm waking up and leaving for shift, and then my wife has to take over at 6 and maybe doesn't get that much sleep. So typically in the morning, especially if I'm getting up at 3, I try and just start with a glass of water and brush my teeth to wake me up a little bit. During that time, I'm either just hanging out in the rocking chair in his room. I usually try and hold off on the coffee till a little bit later, but I'm also in school right now, finished my degree, so sometimes I do homework, sometimes I work on union stuff that I have. Honestly, that time is kind of my catch-all for stuff that I'm behind on, because he's sleeping and I just need to be there in case he needs a suction or disconnects himself from his circuit or throws up or whatever it may be. And then when 6 o'clock rolls around, he gets up. So typical baby stuff, change his diaper, get him a fresh set of clothes for the day, get the dogs out of the kennels, feed the dogs, and we try and just have quiet him and I time until mom wakes up, because she didn't go to bed till 3. So, and after that, when we switch, I have some personal time to get some stuff done in the morning. So whatever I didn't do in that 3 to 6 period, or 3 to whenever he wakes up period, I'll accomplish. I have it's a journal of sorts. I can't even remember what it's called. If you do, I've recently read the 5-minute journal. So there's a journal called the 5-minute journal, available on Amazon. I do have a separate journal where it's turned into more of a letter to Charlie type thing, where I hope to give him something with substance at a point in his life where he would benefit from it, and or just see when he's an adult, or after I'm gone, if I get hit by a bus 3 weeks from now, whatever, like what this period of my life was like, and hopefully he can learn from. Anyway, but that journal I don't write in every day, because it would be a whole lot of the same thing over and over. Every couple months, once a month, whenever I get to it on that one. But I do think some sort of a daily journal is beneficial for individuals. So came across this thing called a 5-minute journal. You write in it twice a day, morning and night. There's prompted space, and it's usually goals for the day. There's some affirmations in there where you write whatever. I'm good looking. I'm smart. I have more time than I think. Whatever. Affirmations that help you start the day positively. And there's a quote in there usually too. And then at the end of the day, there's space for what went well, what could have gone better. But I try and do that. I'm not religious about it. Some days it gets missed, but it is helpful when I do get to it. Helps me kind of make a plan for the day and just start off in that positive mindset when you're sleep deprived and task saturated.
I don't know if you know this, but you told our peer support team about that journal, and I do it with my family now. So
nice.
I have a 7-year-old daughter, so she's learning to read and write. Oftentimes it'll just be like mom, dad, cat, that I'm thankful for. And what's my daily affirmation? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think was this morning was her daily affirmation. But she is seeing that practice, I think, and it's a cool thing to reflect on, how we want to see our lives, kind of visualize that thing, right? You were big into sports and stuff like that, and I go back to like the basketball player at the foul line, right? They visualize themselves making the hoop before they take the shot, right? Or the team that's like reviewing. You were talking about reviewing the film. It's like, how do we want to do this better when we get back out there on the field? That's what they do at halftime, right? Say, these are the things I want to do this better. So you're intentionally cultivating, like, how do I want to do this well? How do I want to show up today, right?
Yep.
How can I be an awesome dad for Charlie? How can I be there for my crew? Be a great husband for Lissy? Because it's hard to balance all that, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah. And I misspoke. It's not goals. There's the 3 things I'm grateful for today, and then like 2 or 3 spaces for what would make today great. I think is the phrase. Where I write goals for the day. Basically. If I get this done, it'd be awesome. And then, so Lissy and I now rotate days because we got to the point where we both felt overwhelmed with what we had to do, and we both kind of felt like the other one wasn't doing anything, we were doing it all, which for both of us it wasn't true, but that was just like the general sentiment. We like never fight, and I think it's because we do this thing where basically before any fight you feel like the tension building. I feel like
absolutely.
So as soon as one of us feels the tension's building, one of us just calls it out. This is about to turn into something. This is how I feel. This is how I perceive you feel. How far off are we? And then we work it out real quick and it's fine. Nice. So basically recently I was like, I'm feeling tension. I don't know if you are. I don't feel like you're doing anything. I feel like I'm doing it all, and you probably feel the same, so let's make a schedule. And she's like, yep. So
wow, good on you guys.
We're rotating days now where like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I cook and clean up while she does Charlie's evening stuff. We set a time for the stuff we have to do together with his cares, which is cleaning his trach and changing the ties and cleaning his G-tube on his belly. And so the person who's taking care of Charlie's just on Charlie, and the other person is just doing dinner and cleaning up. And we rotate that for the evenings. During the day, it just depends. That's the part that's still kind of open, is he's got a lot of appointments during the day and other stuff. So once in a while, if I'm like behind on school, or I got a bunch of photos to edit or a video that's due, whatever, maybe she'll take him to his appointment by herself and I'll have some quiet time to finish those things, or vice versa. Maybe I just got off shift and she didn't have anybody, so she literally stayed up the whole night, so she takes that time to take a nap while I take him to appointments, whatever. But at least the evenings lined out. We kind of broke up chores for days, and so we both also know, like, if there is free time, we also have like a house to run.
Right, sure.
Laundry don't do itself.
Yeah.
And so we have those lined out just so kind of to give ourselves a break as far as expectations. Like, I know if I can put a load of colors in and get it folded, then I'm good. I can let myself off the hook, and I can go do something else. I can have 5 minutes to just sit with Charlie and watch. I can watch some football, or have 5 minutes with Charlie to read some books, whatever.
Right.
But I have something done, and it's defined, and I don't have to. Same thing kind of as the firefighters. Like, you want to do all these things, and you kind of feel guilty if you don't get to it. So we define those so we could let ourselves off the hook a little bit when we didn't get to stuff.
Yeah. Man, I really like that. You said a lot of wise stuff there that I just want to draw out real quick.
Sure.
Like this is a huge issue for firefighters, I think, in general. We're gone for 2 days. We come back. We're out of the flow with our families, stuff like that. Like, they already have their thing going on, right? And we come back, and it just gets weird.
Mess
sometimes.
it all up.
Yeah, we mess it all up. So, first off, you are not alone in those challenges and the inability to sometimes see what the other person's doing. I mean, that's probably the most, common struggle we have. We're gone. They're doing a lot of stuff. We're doing a lot of stuff. We get back together. Man, I think what you guys are doing, though, is great. My go-to is to wait too long until it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, that is literally my go-to that I always need to try to avoid. And I love how you said, as soon as somebody feels that tension building, you guys you throw it on the table and say, like, what can we do to improve that? And that's really cool. And,
because then you can be frank, and tension hasn't built, so usually feelings aren't hurt as much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, having had the good fortune to come over and see this firsthand, like this picture you paint, like, it's really amazing to see, like, what you and Lissy do. Charlie's so awesome. Like, he's just so smiley too, and I know that's got to be, like, tremendously difficult. Like, I can't even fathom, and how gracefully you guys do that together is pretty cool. So,
and now that we've been for a while, it was just survival mode. Like, people were like, "How are you guys doing it?" I'm like, "I don't know what you mean. Like, we're just doing it. I don't have time to think about how we're." But now we've been home. We got home last April. We spent his first 6 months of life in the NICU. But now that we've been home for a little bit, I have had more time to, like, reflect, like, holy crap, we're doing this. And I don't know how we we have a great support network, and we're just doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you guys are crushing.
Yeah. Like I said before, I feel like God's got a plan for everybody. Mm-hmm. We're, for the most part, too dumb to get there ourselves, and so He opens and closes doors to help us along the way. And to get Charlie here, we had a lot of issues with infertility. It's a really long, hard path, where same thing, really hard for my wife and I as far as our relationship, external difficulties, like with friends, and anyway. But we also, like, really freaking wanted this kid.
Yeah.
And so when he got here, it was like, I don't care what happens when he's here. We're just so glad he's here. And so I think a lot of that trial and the stuff that was really hard beforehand was to help us be able to deal with it when he did finally get here, how he is. Because it's just the way it is. We're just happy to have him here no matter what you know what I mean? So just God's way smarter than we are, and He won't give us anything we can't handle. But He may have to give us some stuff so that we can handle whatever He's going to give us next. So,
well, I'm struck. I wrote down some quotes before we started this, and, like, one I was thinking, like, you can't grow a garden without getting dirty. You can't appreciate the amazing stuff you have without going through some challenges. You guys have been through some challenges, and I think, your ability to grasp, the beauty, the amazing part of the day too is awesome, and it rubs off. Like, when my wife or I get to see, what you guys are doing over there, it's cool. It's so joyful for us to go over there. I look forward to it, man, because it's just like, it's such a unique time, and what you guys have going on is just like, it's like a true blessing for everybody that comes in contact with your family. So
that's all, Charlie. That has nothing to do with that.
I don't know, man. Yeah, you and Lissy got to take some credit for some of that, because that life could be so different. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that's a big part of perception is reality. Like, I could tell you a pretty dark and gruesome story about my life, or put a gruesome, and it is just as true as the positive version, which is we're so lucky to have him here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that rings true in a lot of aspects.
Yeah. Is there anything to be said on sleep for you? Obviously, rest. Like I really appreciate what you said, that you guys have this way of almost, writing down your tasks. It's something you can actually complete. So this is the chore list. It's not a million things. It's these 3 things today, because I think we can get overwhelmed with, I have a to-do list that's, 2 pages, legal size notepad. Then I feel like even if I get something done, it doesn't matter. It's hardly a drop in the bucket because 3 things came in on the other side while I was getting those 3 things done. Does that make sense? And I love how you guys have that set up where, okay, I did those 3 things. I can, not that you don't enjoy those things you're doing, but now I can maybe move my attention somewhere else and not feel that compulsion that I need to be doing something else. But I think you guys do also, like, there's some joy in the doing too, right?
Oh yeah.
With everything you guys are doing, whether it's taking care of Charlie or doing the dishes can be a little hard. But is that part of your, I don't know, your spirituality, your practice, like joy of doing the mundane stuff? I mean, life is peppered with it. Or are you a guy who wants to get it done so you can get to this, like, this is what stokes me,
Yeah, a little bit of both. Obviously, some stuff just has to get done. But you can also find, right now, a lot of times, if you're on dinner and dishes duty, that's like the one time that day that you don't have. I said earlier, he's got a lot of appointments. We have something pretty much every day where some entity is either coming into our house or we're having to go. Physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, the hearing aid lady, like something's going on every day. And or people just coming over to hang out with Charlie and help us out, which is great, but it's still somebody else in your, somebody else in your space. So once in a while, your dinner dishes duty is like the one time you have to throw in some headphones and just like do your thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be in your own headspace. And there is also some sort of satisfaction with accomplishing tasks and or just like living, existing in a clean space, what I mean?
Absolutely.
Having some organization to the chaos. So there's part of that too, where if I wake up and the kitchen's clean and I go grab a folded t-shirt out of a drawer in my closet instead of digging through a laundry basket, there's something about that improves quality of life too, I think.
How do you avoid burnout? How do you make sure you still have something left for all that family?
So part of how I avoid burnout at work is, one, having that optimism as one of my core values, keeping in touch with perceptions, reality a little bit, not always, but for the most part. And 2, I choose to involve myself with the things where I feel like I'm taking care of the dudes as well. So I think a lot of the burnout comes from taking care of people who either don't want to be taken care of, won't take care of themselves, etc. And so part of coping with that is making sure I'm taking care of people that are taking care of them. So union stuff, health and wellness committee, peer support team, like those are all things where I feel like I'm doing something to take care of us, so we can better take care of them, and there's a lot of fulfillment that comes with that. That helps with burnout. That's kind of where my passion lies as far as my outside of running calls duties go, and I am doing a lot of it, which there's a real possibility of getting burned out from just doing too much as well, or being too task saturated, etc. But I also just like being busy. I think part of it too is there's a whole lot in my life right now that's completely out of my control, and I like having some things that are in my control. So I get a lot like, why are you, like, you should just be, and I'm like, sometimes it's an escape. Like, I just want to be in control of one thing. I'm going to do this, feel like I'm making a difference, and that fills my cup. And the other stuff that you can't deal with, like, that's also part of life, and I roll with it. Yeah. But if you're just constantly feeling like you're out of control and trying to hang on, that's hard on its own.
Do you have goals, like 5-10-year goals, or are you more focused on the goal of the day and see what fruit that bears?
A little bit of both. I have like loose long-term goals. They always seem to change. But I always knew I wanted to go to paramedic school. I've always known I wanted to be a captain. I'm 99% sure eventually I'll want to go the BC route. Like these were all like long-term goals I had before I even started this career. And as doors like open and close, with those long-term goals in mind, like I've made decisions timing-wise for that stuff. Those are up there to keep in the back of my mind, and like I said, be kind of a beacon of light down the road where I make little decisions to get me there. But for the most part, I try and stay pretty present and just make the best of now, because it's what I can control.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I love it. Last thing, is there one thing you've learned in your career that you could be most helpful to the health or well-being of your coworkers?
Well, I've overhammered it. But seriously, the one thing that's helped, whether I'm on a crew that I love and never want to end, whether I'm on a crew where I'm counting the days till there's another spot opening, whether it's the worst call, the best call, whatever, worst position, circumstances where you know you're going to be on an ambulance for the next 6 months with that, you know what I mean? All that stuff. If I remember that perception is reality, and that if I'm optimistic and look at the positive side, because there's always a positive side, there's always a negative side. It's super easy to pick one or the other. I think natural instinct is to go with the negative, especially if outside influences like nudge that way.
Absolutely.
But it is not that hard also to just drink the positive Kool-Aid. And you see it at busier house, at Station 1 or Station 2. People make fun all the time of like people really digging into the specialty downtown.
Right.
But I firmly believe it's honestly a coping mechanism to like get through some of the extra stuff, busyness, etc. that you have downtown, where if you can drink the Kool-Aid, like, yeah, we're doing this, we're going to be squared away at this. It's a way to get through some hard stuff and enjoy your job. We have a great job. I've never once told someone, like the anesthesiologist, like, yeah, I like my job, but you might want to. I'm like, heck yeah, this is the best job in the world. Good luck getting on. I hope you do.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the best, and we got to remember that.
Bryson, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
not sure why I'm here, but I'm happy to be here. So.
You're bringing the positivity, and we love to see what you're doing with your family, what you're doing with your crew. It's awesome, inspirational for a lot of people. So appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
get after it. This has been the Going Interior podcast about doing hard jobs and living well. We hope you're living well. Thanks for joining us.